Hi guys, welcome back. This video covers making a teacup in Blender, a very primitive teacup. So let's get started. Alright, so let's start with our basic startup file. I have a cube in mind. I'm going to delete it because I'm going to bring a UV sphere in. So let's use a UV sphere. Once again, I did not put my 3D cursor in the right place, so I will just take a moment to line everything up. It's in quad view. Alright, let's take a look and zoom in. Alright, so we're going to extrapolate, or we're going to use this sphere as the start of our saucer. Now, a saucer, or a cup, I'm sorry, or a teacup. It's going to be a very simple teacup. What we're going to do is cut off the top here, and then we're going to give it the inside some thickness like we did with the shoebox using a very similar command. So let's go into object mode. You can hit edit to go into object mode, or you can come down and drag the menu. I definitely suggest getting used to the keyboard shortcuts. And then we're going to go into vertex mode. Let's deselect everything, and then with our X-ray turned on, so let's toggle it on so that you can see through it. Hold Control and press your right mouse button down to select all of those elements. And then we're going to come into our edge mode and we're going to select all of these edges. And this may be a good time to go back into solid mode so that you don't inadvertently select the wrong edge. Alright, let's go through and delete all of these guys. See that we have some faces. Let's deselect those faces. So deselecting those edges. Remember, if that handle gets in your way, you can always toggle it off. Okay, once you have all those selected, come in and click X, and we'll go edges and faces. Let's just go edges. And that should get rid of all of our edges. You may have a couple just hanging out there like we did. Alright, so we've got all of those done. Alright, once you've got a nice clean start like this, you're ready to proceed. So the first thing we got to do, set it up, is switch our pivot point over to median, the median point. That's just going to go with this center point once we have all of these items selected like this. You'll notice that our handle here, our manipulator, is in the center. This is what we want. So what we're going to do from here is we're going to extrude. We're going to get off the z-axis here. But as we're extruding, before we actually move, we're going to also then hit scale, and we're going to scale in. And you'll see that it comes in like that. All right. This may be a little tricky to do at the beginning, at first, but if you, well, let's step back. So you have everything selected. All right, you extrude. You hit E to extrude. You then hit. You'll notice that we have a white line coming down here in the center, and that is constraining our extrusion to the Z-axis, and that's not what we want. Okay, so you're going to hit Z, and then you're going to hit S, and then you're going to move your mouse, to then make a slightly smaller shape on the inside, and that gives us a thickness. And we're just going to sort of pull that edge up to meet it. If you want to be really precise, you can come in and make sure everything is nice and clean. Alright, and that gives us our basic cup shape. The next thing we're going to do, so deselect that, turn on your X-ray mode again, right, and then come down to the bottom. And I'm actually going to go back into orthographic mode. I want to turn off perspective. Oops. Because what I want to see is this point here. We're going to give this a flat bottom. So let's select vertex mode, select that vertex, and then grab the blue handle to pull it up, and that gives us a nice little flat bottom like that, so the cup will actually kind of rest neatly. You can make it bigger if you want to. It's not necessary. I think that's enough. The cup still may tip over a bit, whatever. It's not real physics. Alright, so we turn that back off. We turn X-ray back off. Deselect that point. We've got our cup. You can go back into object mode and get a sense of the shaded appearance. Come back into edit mode because we're not done yet. So what we're going to do now is we're going to extrude a handle. The best way to do this is to pick a side that lines up with an axis, because we are going to use the axis to line everything up and make sure that we are all we're going to use the axis to constrain our extrusion just so we definitely get the right kind of extrusion. So alright, switch over to face mode, grab those two faces and let's say these two faces, and this is going to be the bottom and top parts of our handle. Hit E to extrude out, and you'll see that they're coming out at a weird angle. Well, that's because they're not constrained to an axis. So hit Y to constrain them to Y, and they'll come out flat with Y. Let's pull that handle out. And we got to sort of think about that thickness as well. So I think that's probably good. All right. So we've got that. Now the next thing we need to do is deselect those faces. We're going to select these 6 inside faces. And then we're going to duplicate them. So remember, duplicate's over here on the left. Right here, there's duplicate. You can alternatively hit Shift D. And then, as you can see, we're moving it all around. We don't want to do that. Let's hit Y to constrain it along the axis. And then we're going to click it. And let's turn off our perspective. Actually, there we go. And hit period to zoom in so that we can sort of see what we're doing. The main thing what we're looking for is that those edges there, those vertices, match up just like that. Okay? Once we have that done, we are then going to hit E to extrude, and then hit Y to constrain along the extrusion. You'll see that line changes, so if I turn Y off, I've got just an angled line. If I turn Y back on, I've got a nice line that lines up with the Y axis. And then we just pull to the right to extrude those edges out. And that's just going to be the rest of the thickness of the cup. So really, that's how we do a cup with a handle. It's very easy. It's just extrusion. It's duplication, it's lining things up and knowing how to move these objects around. Okay? Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is make a saucer. We have that guy done. Let's add another mesh to make the saucer. Let's add a cylinder. Once again, added it straight to where my 3D cursor was because I wasn't paying attention. Let's just sort of move it and arrange it. Zoom in on it. We're going to go into tab mode. And then we're going to select edges. Now this is where that edge loop selection comes in handy. So deselect the entire thing, move over to an edge, hold Control, and oops, don't do that. I'm sorry, hold Option, and then select that edge. And you'll see that it selects all the way around. It selects that edge loop, all right? And that edge loop is really what we want to mess with. We can move that edge loop down, and we'll get a nice little cone shape. Not really what we want, but that works. Period. Select that middle period, and just pull everything down to sort of squish it. All right. Now let's go back into selecting our edges. Select that edge loop again, and then this is very similar to what we did to make this sort of flanged out saucer shape. It's very similar to what we did with the cup. Is we're going to extrude and scale and move it around that way to give it some thickness. So let's extrude up a little bit. Hit Z to constrain it along the Z axis. Just go a little bit, and then with that same edge selected, just hit scale. Don't hit extrude this time. Just hit scale, and we can pull out. And that gives us a nice saucer shape, a very giant saucer. That's alright, we're going to change it. Alright, and then we're going to, with that same edge loop still selected, we're going to extrude just a little bit, and then scale at the same time and pull in. And that's going to give us that little bit of thickness that we wanted. Alright, we're not quite done yet. So that's our little bit of thickness. And then we're going to extrude down, and then scale, oops. Extrude, let's see, it's not. Pull it up a little bit more than we would normally, and then let's scale that down, and then we can move it down, and that will give us some thickness. You can even scale it all the way in, and then kind of, you can move that up and down. You sort of see where the orange disappears, that's where it starts intersecting that mesh, and that gives us our thickness there. So that will give us a nice thick saucer that has front faces on everything. And then what we can do is select all of that saucer and actually come back into object mode. And move it in line with our teacup, and we'll notice that it's definitely not lined up with the teacup here. It may be intersecting parts of your teacup, so you want to avoid that. Okay, and if it seems too big, you can always scale it, make it a little smaller. It's up to you. Just make it look good and believable, like it's a real teacup and saucer. Okay, so that's our teacup and saucer. And if you think of doing anything else, feel free. But this is the basic of what you need, or the minimum of what you need for this assignment. So it's very simple. Again, it's a lot of extrusion and scaling and knowing sort of how to start with a primitive shape and extrapolate from there. All right, well, good luck, and I look forward to seeing what you come up with.